2010 was another purge year. And, let's see. How much do I say about this? If someone ever tells you, oh, God told me I'm gonna marry you, run. Especially if they then turn around and start trying to shame you for everything you love and try to convince you that everything about you is ungodly and you need to change. And especially if you're a creator and they start trying to tell you that everything you've ever made is wrong, run. Tell them to get lost and fuck off, and then run. I speak from experience. There are 5 pieces left from 2010. This is in part because of him, in part because that was not the last time. But there's 5 pieces left, so let's take a look at what was there. Straight up, you might be able to very quickly see the Disney princess influence. And quite frankly, I saved myself with Disney princess and comic books. And so you're going to see quite a bit of influence in that for the next couple years of what's left. But yeah, this was the first picture I drew after being manipulated. Let's use that word. Being manipulated into deleting all my writing and throwing away all my art. This was the first thing I drew. And I remember it was specifically inspired by like a picture of Jasmine I found in a Disney princess book or magazine that I picked up from the library at the time. I'm very proud of myself that I didn't stop. At that point, I didn't stop. And I kept going. This one, I remember specifically I was inspired by... Owl City was the other thing that saved my life at that time, was listening to Owl City, because this was like right after Fireflies came out in 2009, and I really started listening to his stuff in 2010. This was inspired by specifically If My Heart Was a House, You'd Be Home. And this was just kind of the image that popped into my mind when I was listening to that song. The layers of the skirt, and like, again, it's not super good, and for that matter, I think the grass and the skirt are being blown in different directions by the wind, but like, I'm still trying, right? I give myself credit for trying. And I think this is like the first time we're starting to see pretty gowns in my work. So like, we're getting progress towards where I am now. I don't remember exactly when this was drawn. I vaguely remember that it was inspired by a sticker of Ariel that I found, or something like that. But yeah, it's one of my surprisingly few. I've done a few mermaid pieces, not a lot, but I have done a few. Oh god, I was so proud of this one when I did it. Like, everything from the little detail of like her shoes, her heels look great. There was a story that went with this picture. I'm not getting into it right now. But not just like the shape of her heels, but also like the shadow of her heel. I am so proud of that. I don't think it's necessarily what the shadow would actually look like, but I'm still proud of the little detail. I was trying so hard to do the lighting for this one. I tried, and I'm proud of myself for that. And his sword leaning in the window of the high-rise. God, again, there was a story there. It did not make any sense. There are a lot of swords starting to appear at this point. I've drawn a lot of swords. Not very well, but I've drawn a lot of them. This one, very much a Narnia inspired. I vaguely remember that this was my idea for like a fantasy inspired Christmas card. That's all I got for you. I would draw much better snow-covered trees in the future. And the good news is, we'll get there. But yeah, this was September 25th, 2010. I'm sure, I know for a fact, there was other stuff drawn in 2010, but it's also gone. What a tragedy. Anyway, let's keep going. my god, this is getting depressing. Okay, yeah, there was a lot more art done in 2011. Like, Dune, there was so much drawn in 2011, but this is all that's left. 3 pieces. I have drawn Spider-Man before. This is the only surviving piece of Spider-Man, and I actually did a really good job with it. I was specifically referencing, I think it was a panel from Ultimate Spider-Man. I also referenced her from another panel in Ultimate Spider-Man. She's an OC. We're not talking about it. No, I did not ship her with Spider-Man. I just wanted to draw them kind of running into each other. But yeah, no, I drew Spider-Man. I'm still kind of proud of her outfit design. I wish I had a better drawing of it. We're not dwelling on this one. This one, okay, this was specifically referenced from a... What comic was it? I think it was a cover of the Spider-Man Loves Mary Jane comic. I was really proud of this at the time. Now I'm looking back and like I'm still proud of it, and there's definite progress, but there's also things I would do so much differently. But overall, it's still, again, it was very direct. It was copied. Like, I was copying pretty much everything from the piece that I referenced. But you know what? It's solid. It's progress. Oh, hello, Elise. Was her name Elise? Oh. I just realized I have a new current OC named Elise. But yeah, I think green-haired lady's name was Elise as well. Again, there was a story there. Has anything. Okay. Okay, I will say this much. All right. This character is from a kind of whole universe of stories that I was working on, and she was one of the side characters. I'm sure somewhere in here I know I have a couple surviving pieces of the main character, but I'm trying to remember if I put any of them in this highlight reel. If I didn't, I might have to fix that. But anyway, let's move on to 2012. By 2012, I was back on DeviantArt with my second account, which is why more stuff is preserved. I mentioned in the last one I couldn't remember if there was anything in the highlight reel of the main character from that story universe. Yes, I have 3 pictures of Taya that I highlighted this year. She is actually on here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times in 2012. I went so hard trying to write that story. I tried so hard. And of course, there is more art from 2012 that is not preserved and has gotten lost. I was starting to get better at saving stuff. I was actually like finishing pictures because I had finally learned how to use my Prismacolor pencils that I had. Late 2011 was when I actually started learning how to use them. And you can start to see, so like my focus was more on finishing and posting stuff rather than just posting empty line art. I didn't mention this before, but like even in 2007, part of why I have so much line art preserved but wasn't necessarily coloring stuff was because I really wanted to start doing digital art. I wanted to get a tablet. I wanted to start doing that because I saw what other people were doing on DeviantArt, and I'm like, I want to draw like that. And so for a long time I was like, okay, I'll get one soon, so I'll just do sketches and then save them for when I have that. I didn't give up on that idea, but eventually I knew it was going to take a while, so I started learning how to use colored pencils, and I paid a lot of money for those colored pencils. Especially at that time in my life, it was a big investment. But like at this point, I was more focused on finishing or posting finished stuff. So a lot of sketches have gotten lost because there were a couple more points where we moved and I wasn't allowed to keep a lot of stuff. So I had to reduce my stack of paper, which meant art had to go. My mother wonders why I'm so bad at throwing things away now. But let's actually get into this. So, remember I mentioned Rin and Pyre earlier? This is the only surviving colored picture of Rin. She was still very angsty and very moody and very sad. And I'll just mention part of that was because her brother was the main villain. And everyone was giving her a hard time for it. But yeah, no, Rin was very sad. Also, look at how tiny her chest is. And just the complete lack of curves. It is... I feel like around this time I started to see like the return of the really long limbs. And I'm not quite sure why. Like, I hadn't gotten back into anime, but I can really see it in this one. As well as a couple other pictures. Mostly this one. Now that I think about it, maybe it was just because I was going back to drawing Rin. I don't know. Just as a side note, this is a photo I took just a couple nights ago of the back of two pictures. One of them is the Rin one I just showed you, and another one that doesn't get featured in the highlight. But I had this one pencil that it was magenta, and I think it was Derwent. A Derwent watercolor pencil that for some reason it bled through the back of the page and it looked like I had used a marker. And I always just found it interesting because of all the colored pencils I've had and used over the years, this is the only one where I've ever had that happen. It was just this specific magenta shade. But if you look at this, it looks like I used a marker. So I have no idea why. But yeah, that's just... we see the return of superheroes and fan art specifically. I am so proud of this one. I actually showed this to my boyfriend the other night as I was sorting through stuff, and he said, wow, which I think is justified. It's not perfect, and you can very much see I was watching Young Justice at the time. The canceled Flying Grayson's poster in the background and the bat symbol, and I'm so proud of this one. This is one of those ones that I still look at it and I'm like, oh, I do have art potential, if that makes sense. Like, I'm good sometimes. I'm really good sometimes. I am including this one only because of the colors. I did edit this scanned picture to like intensify it, but I do remember the colors being super intense on the original, which... do I still have it? I think I might actually still have this one. Especially the hair. Like, all the little details I did in the hair. I'm very proud of that one. This was an original character. She's gonna show up again, isn't she? Yes. Yes, Sarah. You, of course, feature a couple more times in the highlight because I drew her a lot. I drew her a lot. Okay, so remember Green Lady at the end of 2011, or Green-haired lady? This is the main character from that universe of stories. This is Taya. And like, this was the first time I ever drew a sunrise. I don't know if it's the first time I ever drew the ocean, but like, it's probably the best ocean I'd ever done at that point. We're not going to talk about the sand. Okay, this one... about this time, I discovered Tracy Hines, who was/is a cosplayer and indie musician, but she was also a mermaid model. I drew this based on a photo shoot she did. Mostly, I'm really happy with how the colors came out, and especially like the detail I put into the water and the way the tail and the skin are lighter under the water as compared to outside of it. Even the color reflection on the bathtub. Like, it's not perfect, but I'm looking at it going, the details are good. I told you Sarah was coming back. This is the same superhero OC from the Kiss picture earlier. But here in her final uniform design that I made for her, she had... I wanted to do a series of stories starting from when she was a teenager to eventually becoming a pop star superhero. I had big goals. I just remembered, so I think I've mentioned this in one or two videos. I'm at a strange place in my life where I'm back in the same town I lived in when I was 19, 20. And I'm working the same job I worked then, and I kind of feel like I'm being given a second chance to do life a little differently. But I just remembered the job I'm currently at. I remember developing Sarah. Her name is actually Serafina. I remember developing her while I was working this job. Like, prepping salads and doing, it's a restaurant job, prepping salads and doing dishes and stuff, and just developing her story in my head while I did. This was a year or two later that I actually drew this, and again, I did a really good job with the colors. I'm really happy with those. Um, Also the flames. Like, the glow is kind of abrupt and there's harsh lines in the background, but I tried, and that's what matters. As you can also the fire in her hair. As you can probably tell, she has fire powers. And her love interest had water powers. Because I was so original. Speaking of, here she is again in casual clothing, this time with said love interest, whose name was Kai. Serafina and Kai. He had no idea what to do with her. Saving my writing from this time was a little easier because, like, it was all on a computer, unlike physical copies, so, like, I could preserve the files better without having to worry about being forced to fit things in a suitcase. I'm pretty sure I have no completed stories, but I'm pretty sure I have writing of these two. Do I dare revisit? I feel like it would be really embarrassing to revisit that. Anyway, Taya again. This one specifically, I remember drawing on the plane because my mom decided we were going to move to Dallas, Texas, so she could attend T.D. Jakes' church. And we couldn't just go down there for her to go. No, she had to move there. It was fucking awful. Taya again. I almost didn't include this one in the highlight reel, but this was the last piece I did in 2012 that I still have. Taya was getting knocked around quite a bit. I wonder if that was a reflection of my mental state as we ended 2012. But some of you know me, and you also know that there was a little movie that came out at the end of 2012 called Rise of the Guardians. And that movie would change my life.